Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to a very special extra interview of Final Cut. And today I'm joined by an actress who acts, does voice work over, has been a public announcer, a writer, director, narrator. She even survived giving birth to aliens. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the luckiest woman alive, Lili Wexu.
That's me. I made it.
She definitely made it, although God help your soul for doing that scene.
Yes, thank you.
So, firstly, how are you?
Good, good. Hanging in there, hanging in there. It's a tough beginning of the year, but we're hanging in there.
Yep, and we in England are just about. So, first question's obviously, how are you, which we've already had. So, second question, how did you get started out in acting?
Acting was just always in my life for as long as I can remember. Whether it was just acting out in the kitchen for my mom and my brothers and my family members, being in school plays, to becoming a teenager and a young adult and getting an agent. So I didn't work as a child actor, but I was always involved in
Hmm.
acting. So it's kind of something I've always done.
So, everyone has influences, whether they be an actor, director. I mean, me personally, I've said this on multiple occasions, my influences are Hans Zimmer, because he does the best music for any movie, whatever it is ever. Chris Nolan, because he is such a visionary director, it's unbelievable. I have a lot basically, but those are just two of the examples. Which, if everyone listens to a lot of my interviews, they will know that they're probably going, "Oh God, he's gone Hans Zimmer and Chris Nolan." Yeah. I'm sorry, but they're just that good. So with that being said, who are your influences growing up?
When I was growing up, I had basically two idols. One of them was Whitney Houston, who's
Oh,
a singer, right? I'll always remember one time my mother surprised me with a huge poster, which she put in the middle of the night in my room, and I woke up in the morning to this beautiful huge poster. So she was definitely a first idol, and then Marilyn Monroe too. I discovered her when I was young, and I just loved her. And obviously she's beautiful, and as a little girl, she just looks surreal and like a fairy. And so I just loved her. And then I have to say, one of my favorite comedians was this French Canadian actress. Her name is Pauline Martin. And she was just a silly, she's kind of like the French Canadian Gilda Radner, from Saturday Night Live. I don't know if
yeah.
you're familiar with Gilda Radner, but she's kind of like the French Canadian version of her. And she was just silly, and she had all these characters, and she really kind of became whom I loved and loved to watch. And I would spend every moment I could watching her on TV, because she was on TV a lot, doing a lot of sketch comedy. And so she was my TV comedian idol.
Hmm. All right, I must get this off my chest. Alien versus Predator Requiem. How was it? How was it to film, and how bad was your scene to film?
It was very long and very uncomfortable. I was sitting on a stool, and it was kind of like lying down like this, but my there was a stool, so my legs were kind of like this. So, and my the rest of my body was like this. It was just a really uncomfortable position to be in, and I was in that position for so many hours. Um, but I met one of my best buddies on that set, the master puppeteer, the one who was manning all the little aliens,
Yeah.
was also breaking into voiceovers, and I've always been doing voiceovers since my sort of early 20s. And so we kind of became fast friends. And so, as painful as the shoot actually was, and I had all this goo on me, and it was cold, and we were in an old hospital basement, which was also cold, and it was just an uncomfortable shoot. But even though it was uncomfortable physically, I just met the nicest bunch of people on that set.
Mhm.
So I have very fond memories of it.
I think it was a bit hard for everybody to watch. I fe-
Yeah.
I felt so sorry for you in that scene. I'm like, oh my God, she's just literally laid there, just screaming her head off. I'm surprised your voice didn't break.
Yeah, that scene is like one of the most reviled scenes I think in like all of movie
Yeah,
history. It's like
I was,
people just can't take
yeah,
it. And I get it. It's like I get it. I didn't really know what I was getting into, when I did that. So, but I mean, I didn't know that it was going to be. It's like I was like I just didn't clue in, how horrible it was doing it because I was just there, for hours and chatting with people and getting
yeah,
the goo. It was so technical, but yeah, seeing it in context. I mean, it's a horrific scene, and yeah, like the older we get, the harder it is to
it
watch.
definitely
Like
is.
the pregnant lady, like really, like no, don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough scene.
Do you still check your body at night to make sure aliens aren't coming out of some part of it?
I'm still good, but sometimes
I'm glad.
in the studio that might have some aliens in my head. No.
I hope not.
Um, but yeah, it was quite the experience.
Hmm. Now, I've actually asked this question because obviously I'm in England, so we don't get that much Canadian TV shows over here. I think one we
hmm
get is Rookie Blue, and I think that's about it. So, you've done a lot of Canadian TV shows, though, haven't you?
I've done lots of French Canadian TV shows, which incidentally, it's so funny because Canada is really like Canada, and then there's Quebec, which is the French speaking part of Canada. And so Quebec has this kind of like little insular world that it's in, and it's got its own culture and its
Mm,
own movie stars and TV shows and even singers and things like that. And I've lived, out west in Canada, closer to Los Angeles, where I live now, like up in Vancouver, BC, for instance, and it's like a completely different culture.
mm,
So I've done a lot of French Canadian TV. Yes.
yeah. For those not familiar with Canadian TV shows, such as myself, is there any chance you can describe some of them that you've been in?
Um, yeah. So, for instance, Unité Neuf, which is syndicated, I believe in France and in other countries, is about a bunch of female inmates. That's a show that's done really, really well in Quebec. There's a show called Trauma, which is kind of like a Grey's Anatomy version
Mm,
of Quebec, if you will. Those are the two kind of really big ones. There's a bunch of other ones called like Nouvelle Adresse, which is about a woman who gets cancer and how she deals with it. And God, there's a few, but yeah, those are the main ones.
mm. Now people might not know this, but you are actually in a Netflix series called 21 Thunder, which is, to be honest with you, England is like football central. Well, it's football, obviously it's football to us, but obviously it's soccer to Americans and
hmm
everyone who grew up in
Canadians, yeah.
soccer. So this is a country that near enough breathes, eats, and drinks football. So what would you say is the biggest draw for a football fan to watch this?
It's funny because that is actually a Canadian show. It's not a French Canadian show. It's shot in Montreal, which is in French Canada. But and I did not. I was in that show, and I've never seen it,
Never.
so I have no idea
Oh, bless you. At least
what
you're
I.
honest about it. At least you're honest. I'll grant you. I'll grant you that. Now we mentioned Grey's Anatomy earlier because you have actually been in that,
hmm
and you've been in American Crime Stories. So, from your perspective, what would they like to film?
Grey's Anatomy is such a nice. There's such a nice set. It's a set that's, people have been together on that show for so many years. I think by the time I was there, it was like 13 years. So it's just a warm, happy, set where everybody knows how everything works and just very warm people. And I had a very small role on that show, but regardless, like the director came up to see me and the writer and just really warm, nice, friendly people
Mm,
overall. So it's a beautiful experience, just kind of like the show. Like I feel like they're very people love that show, and the set is just the same as the show. It's just lovely. American Crime Story was directed by Ryan Murphy, and I know he's like this icon and people love him, but again, I had a small role on that, and he just wasn't he I don't think he ever really looked at me. And so I was like, Ryan Murphy's like this like amazing guy, and he wasn't that nice to work with.
really?
And then yeah, and then the scenes I was in also, along with a bunch of other people we were all in the same scenes, our scenes got cut. So, and I honestly think it's because they shot a lot of stuff. Like you could tell they were shooting a lot of
Yeah.
stuff for every episode and they just had too much. They
Mm.
just had too much footage. And Penelope Cruz is more interesting to watch probably than me. So
Very true.
she
Well,
stole the show.
we'll see. But yeah, before you actually start on it, had you actually wanted to star in a Ryan Murphy production? Because the guy has done some really brilliant stuff, and he's been going for what feels like 3 decades.
Yeah, no, he's amazing, of course. Like you get a show like that, you're so happy and excited. I mean, it's amazing, you know. But it's also, typical that there's a lot going on and just doesn't have a lot of time and, gets the show going kind of thing. But yeah, it's always a big deal when you get a good show like that on your resume. Like, oh my
Mm.
God, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you are, I did mention this in the intro, you are not just an actress. You've actually been the public address announcer for the opening and closing ceremony of the Vancouver Winter Olympics 10 years ago. So happy 10th anniversary for doing those.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
And you
that
also
was
did it for the Canadian Winter Games 2 years ago. So how much of an
yeah.
honor is it for you to do something like that?
It's an amazing honor. First of all, these kinds of events, they're celebrating like the hearts of nations. It's like the best, of people who dedicate their lives to surpassing themselves.
Yeah.
um and it's like the best in every country, and we're all patriots when it comes to like our teams and that energy. Like when you introduce countries and then the countries come up, and it's electric. There's really nothing like it. It's Games are pretty special. They have a special place in my heart because you really feel like you're a part of something and it's bigger than you,
Mm.
and it's bigger than any single athlete. Even though, in the end it's like one athlete wins, but it's like the whole country wins, and
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And even being just on site, and in that city when you're announcing, like when I was in Vancouver during the Olympics, like it's just magical. Like it's just, there's a vibe in the air. Everybody's friendly, everybody's happy, everybody's there because they really want to be there, and it's pretty special.
I was about to say, what is it about Vancouver in your eyes that makes this city so enjoyable? But I think you just answered it.
Yeah, well, Vancouver, especially on top of just when you have the Olympics, you have people from all over the world. They all come. They have their tents,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
so you have all this mix of people, and it's really really fun. But Vancouver, on top of that, first of all, it's kind of a mild winter, which was not good, which was not good that year for skiing.
Yeah.
But like if you're in the city, like it's just great because it's mild. It's not really cold, and it's a beautiful, beautiful city. Like the city planning there is just really, urban planning has just been really well
Yeah.
done. You're surrounded by the mountains, and there's the ocean as well. It's just
Mm.
like an idyllic, like sort of place on top of it, being sort of a place where everybody, gathered for those Olympics.
Mm. I would say Arrowverse has been filming there for what feels like about 10 years now. So if I can say, so if that goes to right, we're going to film in Vancouver and we're going to make that our base of operations. There must be something about the place.
Oh, I mean, yeah, any opportunity you can get to go to Vancouver, be in Vancouver. I mean, I had the opportunity to live there for about 3 to 4 years, and those were some of my best years personally, but also just like it never got old how beautiful it was. It just never got old. Like I would just drive down, the streets every day and just go like, wow, this is a beautiful place. So yeah, it is pretty special, and just quality of life there is really good too. And plus you're in Canada,
Yeah.
which is a sort of just kind of like England, just a really nice place. And yeah, so it's I love it. I love Vancouver.
I must put that on my bucket list of places to go because I have actually not got that many places on my bucket list where I actually want to go, but I'll put Vancouver on that as
Oh,
well.
it's worth the trip. And then you can go to the Canadian Rockies as well
Yeah.
from there. It's just a beautiful part of the world.
Now, you're probably the most diverse woman that I've actually had for interview because you've done so much that is just unbelievable. I mean, You've also done a bit of narration as well because you narrated the fashion show, which actually had Hulk Hogan's daughter Brooke Hogan on it, which
Hmm.
and she was hosting it. So, as a wrestling fan, because on my podcast there's three of us, so obviously we're all wrestling fans. So, what is she like as a person?
You know, I didn't get to meet Brooke because what happened with that show is it was a pilot first with
Yeah,
Brooke, and it was shot in Montreal, my hometown, by the producer of that show is the mother of a really close friend of mine, and we've been working together for years. And so she did that pilot of that show, and Brooke was actually narrating it. But then they wanted to have a sort of a separation between the narrator and the host.
yeah,
So much after a lot of the production had occurred, they said, could you do the voice of the narration instead of Brooks? And not because Brooks wasn't great. She was great. They just wanted to have that kind of separation of like
yeah,
Brooke as the host and have a narration. And so I got to listen to her and everything that she did, and I had to kind of like bring that same kind of energy. And she's like, from what I've heard, she's a really nice person. Like they really loved her, and yeah, so it was, and she was a perfect host for that show as well.
no,
So yeah, it was great. It was great to kind of like lay my tracks over hers. I was like, oh,
yeah.
there we
And you can
go.
say you've worked with Brooke Hogan.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But I haven't actually met her.
You'd love to. I'm guessing you'd love to do more narrating work if you could.
Narration, yeah, is great. TV narration is great. Yeah, I'd love to do more for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's wonderful. It's its own thing. I feel like TV narration is like a disappearing. It's a disappearing medium because we don't. It's like we watch Netflix and there's not a lot of narration anymore. You used
Yeah,
to have like TV shows. Used to, although there is uh, National Geographic and things like that. But yeah, that sort of work is just a delight because it's kind of educational at the same time, and it's fun. It's fun. Like in the instance of Brooke Hogan, it was more reality TV, so that's a
yeah,
little bit different. But like narration in terms of like nature narration and stuff like that. Oh, it's just so fun. Or biographies. It's just so fun because you just feel like you're not a sellout. Like you're just actually doing something where you're like helping people
yeah.
like learn something fun. So
And you've also wrote and directed a short film called House on Fire. What made you decide to try your hand at writing and directing?
gosh, I don't know. Um, I mean, I've always uh I'm kind of a doer and I like to do my own things and
Yeah,
um but I learned I guess I wanted to just see what it was like, because there were
just
some
try it out.
periods of my career where I was like, well, maybe I'm going to be a director or like a, writer, and then I tried it out and I was like, wow, this is so much more work than I thought. And it's also not as easy as I thought. Like, I have so much respect for filmmakers. Even a really bad film needs a lot of work to even get into that shape. So I have a lot more respect for people in my field who I work for since doing that. It's not an easy thing.
It's not. I would say, would you like to write and direct a TV series, film, or even try in theatre? But I think I have a feeling what the answer would be.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I I I like doing little comedy skits and things like that.
Yeah,
If it was short and easy and I get to perform in it and somebody else directs it, then that's fine. But as far as directing and writing and then yeah, eh, I'm not there. Maybe in 20 years.
now you are actually a voiceover artist. In fact, that you have actually done some voiceover work for one of the biggest franchises that Ubisoft actually has.
Assassin's Creed, yeah.
Yeah, you were featured in Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. So, what is it like to voiceover for a franchise like Assassin's Creed?
At the time, I mean, it wasn't as big as it is now. It was a long time ago. It was, kind of early on in my career. I mean, I feel like it's already been like 15 years or something, which the world was a different world 15 years ago. We've evolved quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was still a big deal, but now I feel like it's legendary, like it's complete on another level. Um, Games like that, they're a lot of work.
Mm,
Pros work on those shows. I mean, it's we had to have accents. And at that time I was young and I kind of thought, oh, I've got this and it's going to be easy. And it wasn't. It was very humbling. It was a humbling experience to work on that game. I learned that I would have to really bring it and train hard if I wanted to keep a career in that field. And if you want to work in the video game sector, you really just have to love video games, and you have to just love acting, and have a very strong theater background. It's not for the faint of heart.
Would you do another Assassin's Creed entry if they asked you for it?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. I mean, those things are a delight because everybody working on those shows are just such professionals, amazing performers, amazing directors, but they're very demanding. Like a lot of the times, you don't get the scripts until the day of.
Yeah,
They're very dramatic scenes. Um, it's like theater on steroids. So losing your voice is, for me, the problem with video games is that I need my voice on a daily basis. I record a lot of commercials and things like that. So, and just corporate stuff. And I just need my voice. So
yeah,
once I yell, I don't have one of those voices. I just, it's my kind of my weak, it's like my strength and my weak point. So there's a lot of yelling in video games.
yeah.
So it's very demanding physically. And, yeah, but of course I would. Oh yeah, they're great games.
Just briefly, do you have any social media where people can follow you?
Yes, they can follow me. I'm mostly on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel as well where I try to give people tutorials and things like that about the little things that I know. People ask me questions. So you can find me on Instagram at Lili Wexu. So it's just my name, Liliwexu. And on YouTube, I think it's the same thing, or maybe. Yeah, I think that if you plug in Lili Wexu, you'll eventually to get to my channel on there as well.
Is that you on Twitter?
Yes, that's me on Twitter. Yes,
Yeah,
so at Lili Wexu Voice. Yeah.
and you are
No,
now.
at Lili Voice. I think Lili
Yeah, it's
Voice.
at the Vexu Voice. Yep, you are now officially followed by me.
Yeah. Great. I'll follow back.
Right, so this is a new section I'm trying out. I decided that I'd sort of like keep something for a year and then the next year I try something new. So I'm afraid to say you are the guinea pig of this. So I do apologize for that.
Right.
So
Okay.
some of it is basically picking your brain over a franchise you've had some part in and maybe even a difficult choice or two. But just so you know, I made this hard so you will not get any judgment on my behalf.
Okay.
All right, now you obviously, like we just said, you've done voiceover work for Assassin's Creed. What did
Hmm.
you actually think to the Assassin's Creed movie with Michael Fassbender?
I liked it. I don't know. I can't remember what the response was to that.
I think it
But
was kind of ish and ish. It wasn't exactly
yes,
great, but it wasn't exactly
that
Alien
and
v
that.
Predator Requiem bad.
Exactly. Right, right. It wasn't, but it wasn't like Terminator 2 good either,
Oh,
right?
no, no,
So,
no. Nothing can
yeah,
ever
yeah.
be Terminator 2
Yeah,
good.
right, exactly. So, but I mean, I actually, I enjoyed it. I remember, I think it was like that. It was kind of like, but it wasn't like, I was like, oh, that's a horrible movie. I liked it. I liked the story. I liked the actors in it. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
It's fair enough. And I was sort of like ish and ish. I didn't really like it, but I wouldn't go to somebody and say don't watch it because
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
Fassbender for God's sake.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, and since you're in Alien v Predator, well, Requiem, obviously, I'd like to get a quick idea on how you think one or either franchises could be reborn.
Maybe, just not suck.
There we go, that'll do. My one piece of advice would keep them separate and don't do it ever again,
Right.
because
Right.
that's how they started off separately, and they came
Hmm.
into their own as time went on, not
And then
together.
blending them together. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, the other thing is leave it to the video games.
Mhm.
Leave
Mhm.
that to the gamer to do, not the movie
Mhm.
maker to do.
Right.
All right, so you could say you're probably a veteran when it comes to voiceover work. I think
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
fairly safe to assume. So, what advice would you give anyone who wants to do voiceover work, whether they're just starting out or a veteran like yourself?
Um, well, they could read my books that I wrote. Get clever about voice acting and announcing. That would be a good start. But the major thing I would say is you've got to get into a sort of My first book is called Becoming an Artist, but I should almost have called it like Becoming an Athlete. because because being an artist is like being an athlete. It's kind of a lifelong commitment, and voice acting is not just this thing that you just do on the side. You really have to become an actor first. And so
Mhm.
I would say, if you're interested in this field, go get theater training if you can. Any kind of if you like improv is
Yeah.
also a great training ground for voice acting. But just go think of yourself as beginning your artist's journey, and just never don't ever think that journey ends. You might get you will get hired before it ends, but you will always need to be a dedicated artist, dedicated to surpassing yourself and to becoming better, just like athletes do. So it's like, the athlete artist kind of mentality. That's how I recommend looking at it.
It's kind of like interviewing, really. You always aim to be better than the last interviewer that somebody had.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. All right, then we'll begin the tough decision round now. It's actually quite. I've made this as hard as I possibly can. Fortunately, you've done that much. It's made it kind of easy to put which ones to put in.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the 5 jobs. You have done these 5 jobs in the past, so you can actually answer this. So, and you have to decide whether you'd do them straight away after being offered it, do it after you have had a bit of a think, do it after being given advice by someone, think about it, then turn it down, and never do it again.
Okay, so I have to choose every job and associate it with one of those things.
Yep, you do. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
There's acting, narrating. Uh, sorry, there's acting, narrating, writing, directing, and voiceover work.
Okay. So what was the first of the things I had to do?
Do it straight away.
Do it straight
Yeah.
away.
So
Acting.
yeah, thought so. The next one is do it after you've had a bit of a think to yourself,
Uh, Writing.
right? Do it after being given advice by someone. When you go, when you go to someone and think, I've got a job offer, but I'm mulling over it. I really don't know what to do with it. So
Yeah,
you get that
directing.
advice, and then you basically try to do it after
Directing.
that. Think about it before you turn it down,
Narrating.
and never do it again.
And what was left in my things that I do?
I can't remember. There's acting, narrating, writing, directing, voiceover.
Oh, then that can't be right. Maybe let's switch the directing with the voice with
Yeah,
the voice
that's
acting.
fair enough. That's fair enough. That's definitely fair enough. I say it's only the first one anyway, and it's still in the.
It still
It's
needs
still,
a little finesse, yeah.
yeah, it doesn't need a bit of
It's just hard
finesse.
to remember what I'm supposed to.
It is, yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
bearing in mind I only need one before I actually start to
It's all good.
fine
You're
tuning it.
forgiven.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
you're
then you're
forgiven.
allowed one franchise to do each of the following. It doesn't matter what franchise it is. It could be Batman. It could be Assassin's Creed. It could even be say Star Wars or even a bit of Disney if you like. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
so one franchise. It doesn't matter if it's a movie, TV series. What would you like to direct?
If I had to direct something and it was a franchise,
Yep.
um,
Or part of a
yeah,
franchise that should be.
yeah, I don't know. Like I'm still in my heart. I still have well, maybe okay, there'd be two. Stranger Things,
Ooh,
probably
good
would
choice.
be would be one because I just love kids and I just love those kids things. And on that note, it would be like Back to the Future. Although we could never make a better one than the first
No,
one. We
no,
never
no, no.
could.
I will.
But
Yeah, I'll say you have great choice, but that can never be rebooted. It
right, it
never
could
can
never
be.
be. I know, I know. So then I'll have to go with Stranger Things then.
That's fair enough. Then, if you were to write something, whether it
Oh,
be,
oh, oh, and then maybe the last season of Game of Thrones. I
oh
would
yeah, to be
rewrite
fair,
that.
you could probably do all that, and it would probably be better than
Yeah, exactly.
last season in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
All right then. So say you write for a franchise, what would it be?
If I wrote for a franchise, what would
Yep.
it be? Um, well, uh, I know Deadpool would be pretty fun to write for, but no, it would probably be a show. I love this show. It's not a franchise. It's a TV show. It's called
Yeah,
Dead
that's
to
fine.
Me. Do you know it?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, it's just it's very good, and I would write for something like that.
All right. Voiceover.
What would I? What's the job again?
Just
What would I voice? What
yeah,
would I voice?
what voiceover would you do for what franchise?
For what franchise? Um, Assassin's Creed again.
Fair enough. Fair enough. They're still churning them out every year. All right.
Yeah.
Narration work.
Just like a National Geographic kind of like National Geographic kind of series, about
Yeah.
like plan planet Earth. Not, I
You-
wouldn't want to compete against Sir
David
Attenborough,
Attenborough.
but
But to
yeah,
be
David
fair,
Attenborough. But
he'll be retiring soon anyway.
exactly. So maybe I can
There you go.
help out with the
And
transition.
franchise that you would like to act in.
I would like to be in something like Deadpool or yeah, Game of Thrones too. What the heck?
There is a spare. It's supposed to be a prequel series coming, but let's face it, no one can resist Ryan Reynolds, except for Hugh Jackman, obviously.
No, but it's just clever. He's Canadian too, and he's just hilarious. His Instagram is hilarious. He's just so funny.
Do you want to know the one thing that kind of made me laugh? I don't know if it made me laugh or made me cringe. When I think this was when he had two of his daughters. I think his tweets went something like, "My daughter just sneezed in sneezed in my mouth and found it funny. I'll be the one having the last laugh. She'll have to bury me." And I was like, "That's
Gross,
true, but it's also
gross.
harsh at the same
Yeah.
time." And the worst thing is, what if it's not true? That's the worst thing.
Oh no, don't think about that.
Well, Ryan Reynolds always has a bit of a six. Sometimes he has a sixth
Twisted,
sense of
twisted.
humour.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
twisted.
All right then. Is there any TV, movies, voiceover work, narration work, anything you've done that you'd like to have done but couldn't for whatever reason? I'll just give you an example in case you're not aware.
Hmm.
Hugh Jackman wasn't the first choice to play Wolverine in the Fox version of the X-Men. It was actually
Hmm.
Dougray Scott.
Hmm.
I don't know if you knew that or not,
No.
but he was meant to play Wolverine, but he did MI2, Mission Impossible 2 with Tom Cruise, and he had to go back for reshoots. So it was actually because of Mission Impossible that we actually had Hugh Jackman play Wolverine.
Wow,
So yeah,
amazing. Oh, wow, wow. Um, no, I mean, I've never had the luxury of turning something down that was like that. I did get called back to the Olympics, the Sochi Olympics, and I couldn't do that, and so that's one I would have loved to do, of course,
mm.
because the Olympics experience is just amazing. But no, other than that, I mean, there's lots of shows I've auditioned for that I didn't get the job for, like,
They
but
count.
yeah, like a the Chronicles, Sarah Connor Chronicles,
Oh,
and
I love that show.
yeah, yeah, something like that with my favorite actress. I mean, I love her,
Oh,
but
is it? I take it on about Lena Headey.
yeah,
Oh, she's
seriously,
so
yeah,
lovely.
I love her. So I wouldn't take it away
Not in
from
Game of
her.
Thrones, obviously, because everyone hated her.
Yeah, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All right, then last question before I leave you be. The interrogation's nearly over, so don't worry. So obviously you've acted with a few people, it's safe to say.
Hmm.
So name me 10 to 20 actors or actresses that you haven't starred with yet that you would like to star with before you retire. It doesn't matter if it's acting, voiceover work in the same game, same movie,
Hmm.
TV series, etc., etc. It can
Hmm.
be whoever you like. So I've always
Um.
wanted to I've always wanted to do something with Tom Hardy or Chris Nolan before I bought
Oh
Netflix.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
just an
definitely.
example because everyone's like, some people are like, actually, I don't know, but there's
Yeah,
some are
yeah.
actually like they just come with answers straight out of the gate. I'm like, yes, they actually think about this on a daily basis.
Right. Um, I think someone definitely like Meryl Streep and Jeff Bridges and the old school guys, but also young people like Jennifer Lawrence
Oh,
or there's this one actress that I love. What's her name? She did
what
the Insurgent. She's like Jennifer Lawrence. She did the Hunger Games, but the other one she did the Insurgents. What's her name?
is it
Um,
Divergent?
Divergence. Yeah, Divergence.
Shailene Woodley.
Shailene Woodley. I just love her. Um, lots of yeah, lots of people that I oh Oscar Isaac.
Oof.
I think he's a great actor. Like he would be fun to act with.
He's
Um,
understated.
yeah, he's understated. He's just great. I just love everything he's cast in as well. Oh, Carrie Mulligan.
Ooh,
I
that's
love
an I
her. She just did this movie called A Promising Young Woman. It is
think I've heard of
twisted.
that.
It's a new film. It's twisted, but she's great. She's gorgeous in it, and she's beautiful, and she's great. It's just a kind of a kick butt kind of movie, and
Hmm.
it's just like a chick flick kind of 2.0, you know. Mila Kunis, I love. Oh, the probably the person I would love most to play with is gosh, now I can only think of Kate McKinnon. I can only think of her imitation of Mayor Rudy Giuliani
Oh yeah,
after the election, her
yeah.
imitation of that on Saturday Night Live. I mean, Kate McKinnon is like, and Mila Kunis got to play with her in a movie called like The Spy
The
Who
Spy
Dated
Who
Me,
Dumped
or
Me.
Who Dumped
I
Me.
have
Yeah,
watched that.
which is funny. And I really like that movie. It was cute and funny and just like exactly what we need during this pandemic. And so yeah, I mean those girls are good for me.
Just to give you a bit of clarity, near enough everyone has said Meryl Streep.
Of course, because she's like your mom. She's like the mom of acting, you know.
She is absolutely. I will say this: she's absolutely talented, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but she was in an old movie with Roseanne Barr called She Devil. I swear
Oh
to God,
yeah,
you remember it?
yeah.
That
I
one
mean, I
scene.
mean, okay, go
There's
describe
one
the scene.
scene in it. You probably know which one it is because you have actually heard of that movie. It's where she runs into the house and tells. I think it's something like her handmaid. She goes, and she goes, "Just get your filthy hands off her, Gosling. You'll find get the hell out of my house." And it was
No,
like
I
so
don't
over
know
the
this.
top. I'm like, that's, she's
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
she's she's badass. Yeah, she's great. She's just you just and you know that you couldn't be bad with her. Like there's
No,
no way, like she would just make it so real and simple that you would just be there instantly with her, and like you would look so good
yeah.
acting with her, you know.
Just in
Yeah.
case anyone's listening, please don't judge me. I have not seen that movie in decades, and that's not my best voice for acting. Right, so on that, and some surprising choices, I'll be brutally honest, because that's the first time I've ever heard anyone say Kelly Mulligan.
Oh, she's great. I love the movies she's been in. Like she
Mm.
chooses good movies. She's not in a lot of movies,
She was in
but I
great casting.
like, yeah, she's just but I always love her, everything she's in. And maybe it's because she's not in a lot of films that you just appreciate her
Yeah, she's
when
like a
you
diamond
see.
in the rough, if you like.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I love her. She's great.
So,
And of course, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I mean, I'd love to be acting with her in anything as well. I mean, she's the bomb.
she is. I think she's actually wrote the new Bond movie as well.
Oh, really?
I think so, because I think I have heard her name mentioned with that a couple of times.
Uh-huh. Oh,
That's if it
and
ever gets
she was
released, mind
involved
you.
also, right? And she was involved in Killing Eve as well, right?
She was, yeah.
Yeah, great
Oh,
show
Jodie
as well.
Comer. I
Oh,
can't wait to
she's
see her in
brilliant.
Free
She's
Guy with.
brilliant.
I can't wait to see her in Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. That's if that ever gets released as well.
Right. It will, it
I
will.
hope it does because it just looks so good.
Yeah. And she's brilliant. Like I watched recently actually a British show called Dr. Foster.
Oh yeah, Jack Foster. Yeah,
And
God,
she's
that's
young in that. She's the young Jodie Comer in that. And brilliant. Like she has this little role, you know, she's like but brilliant. Every time she's on screen, you just like she's just so on it. She's you could see how she got discovered. Like she's just brilliant.
sounds like
Yeah.
you should be a talent scout more than anything. And on
Maybe in
that
another
hidden
life.
talent, yeah, and on that hidden talent, she didn't tell us she had.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been absolutely lovely, Lily, and I hope to have you on again at some point. So, ladies and gentlemen, Lili Wexu.
Thank you. It's my
Thank you.
pleasure. Thanks for
Thank you
having
very
me.
much.